Well, I greet you all with the grace of Jesus Christ, and may his peace be with you. Holy Spirit, you are welcome in this place. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. The word of the Lord. Jesus is not just offering us good ethical advice in Matthew 5 and onward. Jesus has come in some ways as a prophet of God, pronouncing judgment on the temple and on a society of holiness dominated by Pharisees. In a startling and nearly unbelievable way, Jesus is God himself. Yahweh returned to Israel to end what has been quite a long exile indeed for the people of God. Jesus has come to inaugurate a kingdom full of citizens of transformed hearts and renewed minds. He dines with sinners, and he dies with the rebels. He identified himself with the poor, and in Matthew 5, he identifies his followers with the prophets before them, killed by a world resistant to the slow progress of the revelation of God. The good news is, Jesus knows that the real enemy isn't Egypt, and the real enemy isn't Rome. The real enemy isn't even Wall Street. The real enemy is Satan, an enemy proved defeatable by the power of the resurrection. Without the prophetic voice, the church is just another institutional shield defending the status quo. The city on a hill becomes the city of Satan, and religion itself becomes evil. With the prophetic voice, we can speak out against demons of gluttony that drive our society to consume. And in the fires of this demonic drive to consume, the world is consumed as forces of neo-colonialism spread out from an imperial marketplace. The prophetic voice compels us toward weightier matters of the law, those matters of love and justice and mercy. The voice of the prophet calls out that mercy triumphs over judgment. The voice of the prophets call out that we should act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. The voice of the prophets call out that justice should roll down like waters, and righteousness like a never-failing stream. The voice of the prophets remind us that if it had not been for the Lord on our side, we might still be locked up in Egypt. The voice of the prophets reminds us that if it had not been for the Lord on our side, we might still be weeping by the waters of Babylon. The voice of the prophets remind us that if it had not been for the Lord on our side, we might still be singing our shoulda, coulda, wouldas back wherever it was before we got saved. But the Lord is on our side. The voice of the prophets call out for us to be on the side of the oppressed. I heard a prophet from Burma, one of the most oppressed countries in the world, say that what we really need is a revolution of the spirit. I heard a prophet from Alabama say that we must rapidly begin to move from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism cannot be conquered. I heard the voice of prophets rising up from Germany, calling out, we must reject the false doctrine that beyond its special commission, the state should and could become the sole and total order of human life, and so fulfill the vocation of the church as well. We reject the false doctrine that beyond its special commission, the church should and could take on the nature, tasks, and dignity which belong to the state, and thus become itself an organ of the state. This Barmen Declaration, who Karl Barth and Dietrich Bonhoeffer both had their fingers on, repudiated the claim that other powers apart from Christ could be sources of God's revelation. A claim that was important to make in 1930s and 40s Germany. I have seen in the Badlands of Dakota, the poorest zip code in the United States, the faces of little Lakota children still paying reparations for a war lost long before their time. I have seen in the sands of the Mexican desert in Juarez, Mexico, shacks and families burning in the fire of America's drug war. I have seen with my eyes the Spirit of God descend in these places, and I have learned that these words are true. Blessed are the poor. And on my protest sign, I have written those words, blessed are the poor. I know that Egypt may have taken our children, and Rome may have taken our land, and Wall Street might have taken our money. But I have good news. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty. I said these weapons are mighty to the pulling down of strongholds. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Well, for my age group, I would say that preaching is not a typical profession. I have lots of engineering friends, and I have lots of artistic friends, and I have lots of people who think mathematically, those types of friends who I rely on heavily. But I don't have a lot of preaching friends. And in the church today, there seems to be some type of draw away from the pulpit. But I still believe that a pulpit can burn. I believe a pulpit can flame like a burning bush. Some people still believe a pulpit can blaze like a burning bush, compelling men and women to go before the pharaohs of the land and say, "Let my people go." So my prayer for all within the sound of my voice, even if you only came to hear my sister and you're just waiting for me to get done. My prayer for you is that you will, by the power of the Holy Spirit, be freed up to loosen your mouth and lift your voice. As I have seen on the windswept streets of Chicago, the cries of the oppressed rising up, we are the 99% and people, not prophets. May we all find our voice. May we all engage in the discussion our society is having, because it's going to have the discussion with or without the church's input. And at such a time in history, when society is clambering around, saying that the way we have been doing things does not work, how could the church stay silent? I think the church should lift up its voice and say, "I've got an idea. I am a member of a whole nother society, and the way that we do things is pretty cool. I am the son of a king, and he's looking to adopt. If you want in on this kingdom, I can show you the way. In my father's house, there are many rooms. He's got a big, big house, if you know that kid's song, where he's got a big, big yard where we can play football. It's a big, big house. It's my father's house. Why don't you go tell somebody that in the kingdom of God, we are all brothers and sisters. In the kingdom of God, we are all the 100%. Praise be to God.